Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The time is 7:02. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting takes place on the traditional territory of the Stahelis. And before we dig into our agenda, I just wanted to make a quick announcement that I'm pleased to announce that Kaylee Weichman is now our Communication and Community Engagement Coordinator. Some of you may already know Kaylee, who's sitting over there smiling, who has been with the village since 2023 when she came on to cover reception for parental leave. Last summer, she transitioned into a community services clerk position, and as you may have noticed, some positive updates on our website. I think council catch-up is part of her work. Print and social media communications since then. She has officially started her new position today, so please join me in congratulating her in her new role. Thank you. Are there any late items to introduce to our agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'd like to move to approval of the agenda.
So move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion. All in favor of, and that carries unanimously. Adoption of council minutes. Maybe we'll just take this sequentially, just in case. Is there a motion to move the regular council meeting minutes of January 13th, 2025 be adopted? Moved by Councillor Schweinven, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Second 1B, adoption of minutes that the special council meeting minutes of January 14th, 2025 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinven. Discussion on that. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. C, could I have a motion that the special council meeting minutes of January 16th, 2025 be adopted? Moved by Councillor Schweinven, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Agenda item 5 is business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Vital.
Second, Your Worship.
Seconded by Councillor Faccio. Any discussion on the consent agenda? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and excuse me, that carries unanimously. Item 7 in our agenda, delegations and petitions. Mr. Mike Wienbas, Director of Financial Services, and Skylar Gormley, Manager of Recreation and Culture and Projects, regarding the Lettsmott Pool. The floor is yours, gentlemen. And also I'd like to acknowledge the councillors, Mayor Pranger, and councillors from the District of Kent here this evening.
Thank you for having us today. So we're going to go through a quick presentation. The village staff have left the presentation at the back there, so we're not going to go through everything in detail just in terms of time, but we'll go through as much as we can in the 10 minutes. So just to quickly go over the historical backstory of recreation in the District of Kent. In 1978, the District of Kent built the Fernie Coombe Pool. In 2002, we built what was at the time called the Fitness Activity Center, which included a weight room and 2 multi-purpose rooms, as well as a fitness studio. And then in 2014, we built the Community Recreation and Cultural Center. That's an expansion onto the Fitness Activity Center. This includes a gymnasium, 2 more multi-purpose room, and staff administration area. These were all built by and subsidized by the District of Kent taxpayer dollars, but are used by multiple different communities, including the village of Harrison. In this next slide, we have a percentage of active users and membership holders. So these 2 graphs show per community how much of those communities are using our facilities. So in the left-hand side there, we have 18% of Harrison Hot Springs sorry, 18% of our users are from Harrison Hot Springs. And then on the right-hand side, 24% of membership holders are from Harrison Hot Springs. So just to quickly go into these numbers a little more and what they mean, 18% is actually makes up 50% of population of Harrison Hot Springs. So per population, actually Harrison is more represented in our facility than even the District of Kent itself, which sits around 47%. This is also the largest if you include Popcom and the other First Nation communities as well. And then percentage of membership holders. So this actually is 8% of the population is 24%. So 8% of your population is actually a current membership holder in the Community Recreation and Cultural Center. And again, this is a larger number in comparison to the population of District of Kent, which sits around 6%. So why are we building an indoor facility? So it's key, the key to building a new facility, one of the big benefits is a more accessible facility. So the Fernie Coombe Pool is not an accessible facility. It's built in 1978. To retrofit it to make it a accessible facility now would be incredibly challenging. So within ever-aging communities, both Village of Harrison and District Kent, mobility challenges are real, and building an accessible facility will be more beneficial to these users. Providing aqua-sized therapeutic and rehabilitation programs. So again, just enhancing our programs that we currently offer at the facility. And I'm sure you've probably heard from your own community members as well as ours. There is a demand for swimming lessons through all the Fraser Valley, and providing year-round swimming lessons would be very beneficial to both of our communities, as well as length swims. I know a lot of people are currently from the Village of Harrison commuting outside of the village to go to swim outside of our seasonal pool season. And providing year-round lifeguard training to increase certified staff in the area. So not only is this beneficial to the Lettsmont Regional Recreation Aquatic Center, but it's also beneficial to other facilities within both the Village of Harrison and the District of Kent. Providing more certified lifeguards would be more beneficial to the Hot Springs Pool, to the Harrison Resort, as well as Harrison Water Sports. So what are the benefits to Harrison Hot Springs? So first and foremost, it provides access to your citizens all year round. So I briefly mentioned, we know of a lot of community members who are already commuting outside to go to Chilliwack and Hope for their swimming needs. This would keep not only themselves in the community, but also keeps dollars in the community. That's an important thing to remember. Because when a lot of people go to swimming, they tend to shop while they're out doing the swimming. It's also more cost-effective than building your own facility. Of course, a facility of this size would be challenging for the Village of Harrison to build, and that's why it's a fair and equitable approach for Kent and Harrison Hot Springs to be a regional partner. And I'm going to pass over to Mr. Wienbos now.
Okay, thank you. Now let's just look at the facility itself. So up here, you give it an idea of where the facility is being located. It's being built adjacent to and connected to the existing Community Recreation Center. When we look at the floor plan for the facility, we're seeing an 8-lane lap pool, leisure pool, and a whirlpool, steam sauna, and associated change rooms. You'll notice it's got one main entrance for the new wet side, the aquatic side, and the dry side, allowing the customers one easy access point. Here's a few slides we're going to run through, just giving you a visual of the outside of the facility, then moving our way inside. The final color scheme is still yet to be determined. So here you can see it located adjacent to the existing Community Rec Center, which is the bump in the middle of the gymnasium. As we move indoors, you can see the lap pool on the left, the leisure pool up front, and the whirlpool is in the back area. On the left-hand side, all the glass you're seeing there is situated toward Mount Shiem. And then with the upward sloping roof line allows for good vistas and lots of light into the pool. Site mobilization started in early August. Here we have a few slides that run through to give you an idea of what's going on at the site. Most of the focus has been on underground utilities, underground plumbing. You're starting to see some concrete work, foundation work. The hope is to see steel structure start being raised by June, July area. Now we've seen the facility, we can look at the budget itself. The facility has a $25 million construction budget funded from 4 main sources. One is a $10 million grant, which, as you may recall, the community of Harrison was a big supporter of that, as well as other local regional governments and First Nation governments, and bringing that to the community. Looking at borrowing of amount of up to $10 million for the Municipal Finance Authority. The District of Kent Council has seen this facility as a good vision for the larger community for many years, has been putting lots of money aside for Community Works Fund, allowing for $4 million in reserves to be put towards the project. And then we move on to what initially I would have thought was a lofty goal of $1 million in fundraising is quite well achievable, as we've just recently passed the halfway mark, and just over $500,000 in community fundraising. We have a local community fundraising committee made up of residents from Kent and Harrison. They provide a lot of input and events towards that. So that leaves us with a $25 million construction budget. Not included in that number was a land cost of around $2 to $3 million, a portion of the District of Kent Park that was donated to the project. So we look at that and try to come to council with an understanding of what the funding request is for council's consideration of the $10 million to be borrowed. If we were to look at either a population-based model, assessment model, or active user model, it's interesting to note population and active user is actually quite similar. Harrison Hot Springs, share of that would be $130,000 per year, which works out for $1 million residential assessment to around $100 per year in property taxes. And that would be for a 20-year term, and then it would fall off because debt would be paid off. Transitioning to the operating budget, we need to consider this as a year-round facility with a lot more amenities, and of course is going to have more cost to operate than the current Fernie Coombe pool. Fernie Coombe pool operating seasonally, and this year-round facility operating just over 3 times as long with, of course, more amenities. While the final operating budget is not known, it's estimated to be around $450,000 to $600,000 in net operating investment. Of course, as you can imagine, Aquatic Center is very energy consumption, and the design right from day one was all about energy efficiency. High efficiency boilers, LED lighting, low flow plumbing, solar panels being pre-plumbed for geothermal down the road, knowing that's going to reduce the operating costs. The next component is staffing. Over the next year, the district will be finalizing a staffing plan to ensure we have good customer service, but yet balancing the financial needs of being fiscally responsible and providing a safe environment, which will include determining the total operating hours for the facility. All that being said, with an estimated annual operating investment of $500,000, and again considering different options of how that could be shared amongst the region, Harrison's share would be around $90,000 per year to help provide that kind of support, or approximately $70 per year in property taxes for a $1 million home. This is just actually slightly higher than what is already being contributed towards the Agassiz Library, so a similar recreation type facility and a similar ballpark value.
So District Kent is exploring different options, of course, regional partner being the preferred model, but some other communities, what they're looking at is a potential 2-tier fee system. What is a 2-tier fee system? It's a system where residents of the District of Kent would be provided subsidized drop-in rates, whereas non-residents would be paying a full rate. So a couple communities have this in place already, City of Port Alberni being one that's had it in place for 20 years. And the City of Vernon has had this in place for about just going on 2 years now. And it's important to note that their model actually includes partners as well, regional partners. So what's the benefits of becoming a regional partner? So first and foremost, one of the benefits is inclusion and priority registration. Currently, the only priority registration we have is swimming lessons. However, we've started to discuss this for other programs as we're meeting our demand for, we're maximizing in capacity for a lot of programs. So this means that, for example, for swimming lessons, currently Harrison Hot Springs is waiting an extra week to register for swimming lessons, which means residents of Harrison Hot Springs may begin their second or third choice options, not likely their first choice. So inclusion, becoming a regional partner would include you in this priority registration. Access to the Super Senior Program. So the Super Senior Program is for anyone 80 years or older, and it offers a free membership to those residents. Currently, this is for anyone at the moment, but in the future, this will be for District of Kent residents and regional partners as well. And just a note on Super Senior Program, there is currently 12 Harrison residents that are actually part of that program already, and that's out of 34 total people. So again, a high number when you compare it to population. Access to programs such as Economic Access. So this program offers a subsidy to low-income families to access recreation at a discounted rate. Again, it's currently only offered to District of Kent residents, but we'd want to open this up to regional partners as well in the future. Subsidized programming and drop-ins. So we offer subsidized programming for child, youth, and seniors, as well as some other programs such as our lifeguard training program, which Council has approved in the previous year's subsidized rate for District Kent residents to actually train to be certified as a lifeguard. Again, we don't want to open this up to regional partners in the future. And again, most of this presentation is about the Letsamont Regional Recreation and Aquatic Center, but this will include the dry side as well. So all the benefits that we are talking about today includes the current offerings in the Community Recreation and Cultural Center. And potential partnering opportunities. So not only can we offer recreation in the District of Kent, but maybe these opportunities to bring recreation to the Village of Harrison. There are programs such as yoga, Adventures in Agassiz, or other opportunities that we'd be able to partner with the village staff and maybe help out and bring some opportunities to the community. And that's it for our presentation. So if council has any questions, we can answer them now.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll turn the floor open to councillors who may have some questions. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification, the operating and the capital, is that the 170? Is that?
Yes, thank you for your question through the mayor, Councillor Fascio. Yeah, so if you were to add the two together, $100 per year in capital and $70 a year in operating. The capital would be paying for debt, so
Right.
that would be dropping off after a 20-year period, or length of the borrowing, whatever it ends up being determined by council.
Great deal. Oh, but I just want to say one more word, Your Worship, if I may. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think this is going to be of such benefit, not just to the residents of Harrison, but hopefully more in our regional area. This has been, I can remember back in, I'm sure Mayor Pranger remember, back in the day when, I forget the name of the RCMP officer, he was a tall guy, and he wanted to bring a recreation rink into the community, and it was totally turned down. But this is getting so much traction that I think it's a win-win situation for both our communities and hopefully for more that will become regional partners. Thank you very much for taking the initiative and the go to get involved in such a large project, but it's outstanding. I think, well, I can't wait to see the completion, and hopefully I'll be around for the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to our presenters, well done. Thank you for taking the time to come to council tonight. I'm excited about this project, and a couple of questions. Do you know yet of an anticipated completion date?
So right now, the project timeline was opening for initially a June 2026 opening. It's just working through a few things with supplier chain and such that, so we're not 100% sure on opening. I think at the worst case, we're looking at September 2026, was kind of what we're shooting for. It allows for a softer opening, allows the FC pool one more full summer use, and then starting the fall into the new pool. That is the current goal.
Thank you. And I just wanted a clarification on one of your slides. I know that over the past few years, I have received concerns from some Harrison residents that they weren't able to register their children for swimming lessons at Fernie Coombs. So can you confirm that if we were to become a regional partner, that wouldn't be an issue anymore? Is that correct?
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Vidal, that is correct. As a regional partner, you're considered just like the District of Kent residents. You're a funding partner. You'd be treated no differently, and would no longer have to succumb to the 1-week delay that's currently in place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tallon, and to the group from Agassiz. Thank you for coming. It's great to see you all here. Obviously, you're very passionate about this. I think this is a fantastic project. I love the fact that we have the majority of super seniors participating, 18 out of 34. I think that's fantastic, and it speaks to the health benefits of pools and getting involved. And I've long been an advocate of trying to get Harrison and Kent to become a blue zone where people can live a long time and have a long, happy life. And I think this could be a cornerstone of that. I also like the fact that you have the economic, I'm not sure the name of it, the economic access. I think when it comes to children, we can either pay little now or pay a lot later. We have to invest in children's health, mental health, get them off the streets, and I think this is a fantastic this looks like a great idea. I have a lot of neighbors who do the No Sweat program as well here, and I think that's a fantastic fit on the dry side. So I'm in favor of it, and I can see our financial guys saying, stop, you have to stop now. We're being too excited about this maybe. But I want to say that I think we should be a family in this. I like the regional partner idea. Question for you though, if we should select that, as Councillor Vidal mentioned that sometimes there's a wait list. I'd like to see a full integration between our two communities when it comes to little boys and girls not having to be on a wait list for baseball or soccer or basketball registration. Same with our seniors. I'd like to see a full integration, a full equalization of our citizens and your citizens when it comes to the use of our facilities and the use of your facilities. And I hope this is a step in that direction. So well done and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. It's a very interesting project. I've gone by, I've seen the construction. It's nice to see it. I think it had good weather up until 72 hours ago. So I saw good progress being made. I echo a lot of the things here. I think this is a great value for the residents of Harrison Hot Springs. I think partnerships and collaboration and cooperation between the District of Kent and the village of Harrison Hot Springs makes all our residents a little better. So I do like that. And I'm wondering if council will entertain some kind of motion to direct staff to do due diligence on the numbers. We thank you for the presentation and come up with some options on how we might. Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that motion? Councillor Schweinbenz?
Oh, sure, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I support the motion, and I would add that I think we should go with the more premium option, the regional partnership idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'll make an amendment to that motion that perhaps we can refer this to a special council meeting after a financial officer has had the opportunity to do some research and coming up with some options. I think that that would allow for a more in-depth discussion with council and staff. So that's a friendly amendment. Mayor, thank you.
There's a motion to amend the motion. Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Faccio seconds that. Discussion on that amendment. Councillor Schweinvans.
Sorry, just to clarify, the first motion, I think, was to direct staff. So I'm not sure why there's an amendment to direct staff to come up with numbers. What are we amending?
So Councillor Vital, if I'm going to paraphrase, hopefully, and corporate officer can correct me if I get it wrong. The first motion was to direct staff to do due diligence and come back to council with some recommendations on how we can partner with the District of Kent. And Councillor Vital added that when we return, it returned to a special meeting of council at some future date. Further discussion on the amendment? I'll call the vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment? And now we have an amended motion. Any further discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote on that. And that also carries unanimously. Thank you to our friends and neighbors from Agassiz, District of Kent. You're welcome to stay. I also know it's Monday night and it's cold and windy and you may want to leave. So thank you for being here tonight. With that, I think we're on item 8 in our agenda, which is correspondence. Can I have a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved, Your Worship.
Or moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on receiving the correspondence?
That's the next one.
Great. Is there any discussion on a motion to receive the correspondence?
Oh, on the motion.
Seeing none, I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? Correspondence received, which takes us to business arising from correspondence. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Item A, letter from the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society. This is a very worthwhile organization that retains the history of our two communities. I think the request in the letter is a modest request. It is for $2,000 annually to assist them with their current operational requirements. So I will make that motion then to approve the request of the Historical Society for an additional $2,000 annually for their operation expenses. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Jackson seconds. Any discussion to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. As you know, I sit on the board of this museum, and very excited to be part of that. There's a new manager there named Maria. She wrote us that letter, and she's very enthusiastic and has a lot of new initiatives. And some people may not realize that they've been spending a lot of time doing a lot of digitization. So residents and council can submit documents going back as long as you want, and they're trying to digitize as much as they can. And it's an expensive project and time-consuming project, but it's going to allow a different interface, a virtual great place to see different implements and and items from the past. So I'm a big supporter of the museum. I think we should, as council, support this. It's a very modest increase, and the museum is really improving, and there's quite a few residents who volunteer on as part of the museum as well. Thank you.
Any other discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Additional business arising from correspondence. Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Your Worship. First one is the B, the letter from the Girl Guides of Canada. I would like to make a motion that February the 22nd, that the plaza and digital bulletin boards be lit up in blue.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion to that motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I certainly support the motion. I spent many years as a young girl and teen being involved in the guiding organization. It's a wonderful, wonderful program, and in providing, and hopefully when there are good leaders, it helps shape young girls' minds and positive influence on them. I mean, look at me, hey? I support the motion, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Question for CAO. Are we able to turn those lights and boards blue?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. Yeah, absolutely. We can facilitate that request.
Any further discussion? I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Any further business arising?
Second one, Your Worship,
Go ahead, Councillor
is
Fascio.
it's just to compliment the page 29, the BC timber sales. I was very impressed with the reply they gave the council and answered all the questions. I think they did an outstanding job of all the questions that were asked by the councillors and their comments. So I just want to thank them for their correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I do thank them for the work they put into answering these questions. I am still left pretty uncertain what they're proposing. They wrote us in November, I believe, seeking our input on proposed logging in the vicinity of Harrison Hot Springs. I've gone through all this information here, and I still can't tell where they're actually proposing logging. I've tried to follow their links on their website, and I was unable to do so. I don't have from here a good sense of how many logging trucks will be on Hot Springs Road and coming through the village with any of this proposed logging. And I am really concerned that most of their responses simply defer to, we're following provincial regulations and other things. And in particular, viewscapes and logging that might impact the view from our waterfront and from our village. If I read these answers correctly, someone comments on these visual polygons and says yay or nay without any input from the village of Harrison Hot Springs. And I don't like that. I think the village should have a say in this and have some input and inform this. In fact, go even farther to say that logging that leaves clear cuts that's visible from the beach, I think detracts from the aesthetic features of Harrison Hot Springs. I would like to thank them for the answers so far, but respond with some more detailed questions. I've drafted up several questions that I'd like to just read here and see if they resonate with council and if there's any other questions. The ones I had in mind was Just bluntly, please identify where all forestry logging operations are being contemplated in the area that is 60 kilometers from the village of Harrison Hot Springs. Second question, please identify the number of logging trucks on a weekly basis related to forestry vehicles that will be using Highway 9, Hot Springs Road, associated with these contemplated forestry logging operations. And please clarify who approves or rejects logging operation based on what they call the visual impact inventory polygons in an area 60 kilometers from the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and confirm what the role of the village of Harrison Hot Springs is in that process. Councillor Fascio?
I agree with what you're saying, Your Worship, but I think these folks they're legislated by the provincial government, and they've given probably the best answers possible. I think at some point, with what you've just said, if you want to go back to them, that's fine, but I think at some point we should be sending a letter to the minister with more of the details that you're overall details regarding our community, the sight lines, and how many, I know from an old friend of mine, when it's really moving, there's at least 20 trucks coming through and 20 trucks going back to that east sector of the village. So I think that's, don't disagree with what you've just said, but I think we should get a letter also to the ministry, and also when time comes to book an appointment for UBCM, we should make an appointment to see the Minister of Forestry as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a start. I think when the BC Timber Sales asks the Village Council their views on something, they need to give us information so we can actually form an opinion. I know there's logging contemplated this summer on Mount Agassiz. I don't know if the village was asked about that in the past, and if the village said anything, but here's an opportunity to put some markers down and say the village does have interests in logging activities, and there are certain things we want protected. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. If it's the vote in favor to write a letter to the ministry, I also think it would be important to CC that letter also to our local MLA, Tony Luck. It may be worthwhile reaching out to him just to keep him in the loop as to what our concerns are, and I think it may be worthwhile to seek some level of support from surrounding communities, including our First Nations neighbors, and saying that it may be worthwhile to request that this be put on as an agenda item at our next Let's Mott C2C forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Yeah, I concur with those ideas. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. Just one short comment. I think you're going to find over the years that the departments like this one, they operate in what's called smoke and mirrors. So 5 years from now, that smoke will still be there, and you won't get any answers to this. We've asked this so many times. So it does become very frustrating. So, I mean, you could write your letters, but they're going to go ahead and do it anyway. It's just one of those sort of situations that we're in. And I think it's, we have to maybe focus on what we can do and not what we hope we could do. That's all. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinevans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I was driving over the Rosedale Bridge today, and because of the snow, you can see on Mount Agassiz the patchwork of clear cutting that's been done over the past. And I think some of the clear cuts that are proposed for this summer and next are the decisions probably already been done. But I like your idea of continuing this file to this date. neither BCTS nor the other agencies involved in forestry have received notification from our village that we are concerned, if not opposed, to issues with regards to logging that might affect the fire hazard on our evacuation route going south. The new science is pretty clear in that these clear cuts can provide more dangerous conditions with regards to forest fires. Clear cuts decrease humidity and increase heat and increase wind, and the conditions for wildfire are increased with these clear cuts. In her answers, I think I agree these are good answers, but it kind of didn't bring a lot of clarity to some of our concerns. I'll quote her on some of these things. Other forms of fire hazard abatement are strongly encouraged but cannot be made mandatory under current legislation. So it sounds like the legislation needs to be changed, to Councillor Jackson's point. That's going to be a tough one to do, but I do believe that on a local level, something can be done. And one of our questions was, how can we make an impact and how can we have a voice in some of these decisions? And she's given a couple of names. She's not only her organization, but also the district manager of forestry, Mike Peters. So I think these questions need to be sent to them as well. I think we need to have a stand on this. In previous generations, it sounds like we didn't have much of a voice. If we don't get anything done this summer, perhaps they'll start listening to us in future years and in future generations. I've reached out to my fellow councillors, and I appreciate all of your suggestions regarding writing the minister, regarding our local other legislation agencies, BCUM, and that's great, and we're going to do that. So notice of motion, I think we need to do something and have a strategy for that thing as well. But we need to have a more immediate response to these folks. And I like your questions. I would add a fifth one, and that is, what are they going to do to mitigate and to ensure that our evacuation route south will not be impacted by wildfire conditions being potentially made worse for us this summer and summers in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinbanks. I can absolutely. Another question for them would be good to get clarification if they anticipate any impact on our evacuation route, should we need to evacuate. I'd like to move that we return or thank BC Timber Sales for their written responses and follow up with the three questions I read and Councillor Swinbanks' question on impact on evacuation route, and add that we seek to have this matter put on the next Let's Mod C2C meeting when that occurs. And that's seconded by Councillor Swinbanks. CIO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I do believe there was a discussion about sending a letter to the minister. Is that still on the request as well?
Yeah, to the minister, I'd like to make sure we have maximum impact, Councillor Fascio, when we approach political ministers provincially. I'd like to get the answer to these questions first, and not forget that we have an opportunity, but I'd like to go with facts in hand. And if we get another non-responsive answer or evasive answer that's not clear, then I think we have a little bit more to, it'll help inform how we would approach the provincial government. Thank you. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I support your motion. But I would also urge that we at least have contact with MLA Tony Luck. I would like to see that included in whatever level of correspondence that we do have when it comes time to, if we're successful in getting a meeting with the Ministry of Forests at UBCM, our MLA can lead the way and prompt the minister on what our concerns are prior to us having the meeting with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. That's a good suggestion to ensure our MLA is copied on this correspondence and brought up to speed. Councillor Swinbanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would add to Councillor Vidal's suggestion in that we ignite the feet under the District of Kent as well. Most of this logging is in their jurisdiction, and I'd like to see them become a stakeholder on our side as well.
I think it'll be captured in the C2C aspect, and if there's anything that falls out from that that's bilateral between us and the District of Kent, we could do that afterwards. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And corporate officer, I have these questions written out that'll make it easy to draft that correspondence. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I just want to make some comments on correspondence C. Lower Mainland Local Government Association call for nominations. First of all, I would like to thank yourself and Councillor Facio for agreeing to sign my nomination papers. I will be running for my second term as first vice president. Elections will be held at the conference in Whistler in April at the AGM. So just wanted to say thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Swinbanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, we are a team in here, but we're also part of a larger team. And I think having Councillor Vidal on this executive is a real boon for our community. Her updates at every council meeting is fantastic. And for us, for council, or for our council and our community to have a voice with the LGA, I think is fantastic. And I can't think of a better voice than Councillor Vidal. So keep up the good work. I did text her on Friday and said, why don't you go for president? But apparently it's already taken. So perhaps next year you can go for that. I like the fact that the Lower Mainland group looks after, you know, we're a broader community here. And just like we're a family with the District of Kent, the more that we can broaden our shared concerns and bring that to more senior levels of government, the better. So congratulations to you and good luck in the future.
And I echo that, and I thank you, Councillor Vital, for taking on that role. I think the village is well represented, and I think, speaking for myself, you have my confidence that you'll represent the village well. Thank you. Any other business arising from correspondence? Seeing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is reports of councillors, committees of the whole, and commissions. Are there any? Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Worship. On Thursday, the 23rd of January, I attended the Committee of the Whole Financial Plan of the Fraser Valley Regional District. It was just a short 3-hour meeting, 260-page PowerPoint presentation, where they deal with 140 different services. Just gives you an idea how large the area that we have in our regional district. The 68% is in electoral areas and 63% is in municipal areas. There are 9 tax classes they have to deal with 9 regional parks and 3 regional trails. So overall, it's going to be a bit of an increase across the board on our requisition coming up this year. So that's the way things are going. Everything is going up, and of course, as some may know, some may not know, that building permits, inspection, BC Transit, regional parks, and mapping are all carried out for the village by the regional district. And at the board meeting on January the 30th, There's a delegation on land use planning for agriculture, Ministry of Agricultural staff are there. BC land use farming is one of the highest in the country. BC is unaffordable province for housing. Farming in the Fraser Valley Regional District employs about 8,000, 1.9 billion budget. There's 25,000 workers approximately in BC with a 4.5 billion. Unfortunately, fewer young people are taking up farming, so this is causing a bit of a headache. The Chilliwack River Valley had a $500,000 awarded to do some slope hazard risk assessment. There's a letter going to the Premier of BC that the government robustly fund transit in our region, and approximately 10 resolutions will be going to the Lower Mainland Local Government Association regarding disaster financial assistance on Crown land for electoral areas, legislative amendments to allow entry on private lands to undertake recovery work such as the atmospheric river, unmet demands due to the housing bill. This is more to do with electoral areas. And of course, it affects transportation, health, and infrastructure. And also provincial funding for extra shelter bed locations, radon and food security, and for the electoral area residents, their concerns on Bill 44 regarding the housing. The area director for Cultus Lake brought up on her report from directors that they have or are still going through the same goose situation as the village of Harrison Hot Springs, but they have had some success in the population by adding the eggs, and they do have folks that do this. So I would suggest that our staff contact them for information regarding the company or the people that, because they have had some success with their goose population. The report regarding the FERD is the Fraser Valley Regional District Board approving an application of the Union BC Municipalities Regional Community Program to facilitate a forum with Stahelis First Nation and confirm that the Fraser Valley Regional District will manage this grant as required by the funder. And part of the grant is strengthening relationships, fostering future cooperative action by building stronger links between First Nation local governments and elected officials, supporting local reconciliation efforts, developing or improving coordinated approaches to emergency preparation, mitigation, response, and recovery, including recovery from impacts of climate change and the COVID pandemic. A strong fundamental relationship exists between the FERD and Stahelis. At the most recent gathering, it's proposed that regular discussions on specific topics of shared interest would further solidify this relationship. So that's another area where more folks are getting involved, like what we brought forward many years ago with our C2C. And the last report is regarding the invasive weed control program, and that infestation sites in the electoral areas, Abbotsford and Chilliwack, there were 6 that came under electoral area C, which is us. There was a total of 396. Giant hogweed can grow up to 5 meters tall, produce up to 100,000 seeds per plant, and has a sap that can cause burns and blister on skin. No new giant hogweed plants were found of the 28 of the known sites where the plant had been observed and removed in previous years. Giant hogweed plants were fully removed at 6 sites where they were sent to be regrowing. So that's, and the knotweed, there was 139 sites. Sites plants free was 165. Sites treated was 192. Sites not treated was 46. Areas treated per hectare was 5.8. So that's the reports from the regional district. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pacho. I might just follow up on the Cultus Lake geese mitigation. The Miami Stream Keepers have provided lots of information to myself and staff on that, and they are reviewing some really interesting work they've done and how successful they've been. And we'll be following up with the people that did the education and all that, those good things for Cultus Lake. So
Good.
that's already underway, but thank you for noting it again.
Thank you.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. January 14, 15, and 16, I attended our council's three-day training retreat. It was a very informative 3 days where topics including the planning processes, roles and responsibilities of council, the relationship between council and staff, public hearing processes, and legislation what governs local governments were presented and discussed. Also a review and updates to our strategic plan. January 21st, I attended the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program. On the agenda was the discussion by the village to investigate planning a mock evacuation exercise and EOC activation this spring to be held in Harrison. No set date yet, as plans are in the very early stages. The report from our emergency program coordinator indicates from October 24 to January 25, there were no significant weather events. In November, however, a large-scale rock slide occurred between Kent and Hope on Highway 7 near the Hague Scales. The slide impacted the highway, rail line, and hydro. While the incident did not result in any injuries, it reminds us of the somewhat fragility of our transportation systems. I'm pleased to announce that the January 1st snow survey shows the current average of the snowpack is at 87% of normal. As a comparison, this time last year, the snowpack average was at 56%. Both Kent and Harrison are coordinating on the 2025 application process for UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, which, if successful, will be utilized for ongoing training and equipment purchases. January 28th, I attended the council-to-council closed meeting hosted by Stehalis. And on January 29th, I attended a special council meeting where agenda items included presentation of the draft 25 to 29 financial plan, dike project update, and a presentation by Modus on the village lands master plan. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I went to all those things too. However, I would just like to announce that we have a Communities in Bloom committee. We've had our first meeting. We're up and running now, so we will be giving out more information in the future, but we have a lot of things planned, and I'm sure we're all going to see them all around the community. We will start off one day with a backyard garden contest and things like that. So I'll keep you up to date as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I don't have a particular report, just a couple of comments. I was on the island and came home on the ferry late last night, and it's a winter wonderland in Aldergrove and Langley area. There must be a foot of snow and you could hardly drive. And you didn't see a plow anywhere in sight. And I came here and the streets are in really good shape relative to the rest of the region. Most of them have been plowed, even the sidewalks. I've been walking around all day today. They've been plowed. So I just wanted council to recognize the hard work. You know, the folks on our operations team are getting up early, getting in their equipment, and I don't know how they do it, but it's all hands on deck. And I wanted to thank manager of operations for coordinating that, and for the staff to put our streets in good shape. So thank you. The other is a comment about what's been going on today south of the border. And I think this is something that maybe council should consider in the future, and perhaps I need to do a notice of motion if the threat of tariffs continue. And that is perhaps our council, our municipality should adopt a Canadian first strategy. We could argue that the transformations that are going to take place in Canada are going to be good in the long term, but it's quite clear that sides are being taken, and I think our municipality needs to as well. We're all making personal decisions about what we're buying and from where, and I think at some point our municipality should probably follow a Canadian first strategy as well. We probably spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment, supplies, that sort of thing from the United States, and maybe we should stop that. Let's see, I'm suggesting that we see how the next couple of weeks go, but I think that's something that council should consider going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebents. Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, I think, nationally and provincially. Let's see how the next few weeks go and return to that perhaps at the next council meeting for some discussion. No other reports? Then I think we're on to the next agenda item, which is my reports of mayor. I'll be very brief. I very much enjoyed and benefited from the workshops with our land use planner and the consultant Ron Poole the week of January 13th. Very grateful to have had the opportunity to be informed by those two very knowledgeable people about municipal operations and legislation and sort of the whole environment that we do our business. I too attended the Joint Emergency Planning Committee with Councillor Vital, and we're looking forward to taking some proactive steps, I think, in the coming months to ensure the village is well prepared for wildfire season. And hopefully we don't need to use any of our things, but to be prepared and take some proactive steps in that direction. The council-to-council meeting with Stehalis, my own views are that it was a very positive and productive meeting. And I left thinking that both Harrison Council and Stehalis Council are looking forward to renewing their relationship and on a very respectful and positive way. So very happy that went that direction, and look forward to engaging with the Stehalis Council again in the future. And that's it. Corporate officer reports from staff.
Thank you. We have our bylaw enforcement officer, Jessica Ferguson, here this evening to present the 2024 Bylaw Enforcement Services Annual Report.
Go ahead, bylaw officer.
Okay, so as per usual, Harrison is a summer tourist destination. So the busiest time for bylaw enforcement is on the summer weekends.
Could you just speak a little bit closer to the mic, please, bylaw officer? Just thank you.
Thanks. So there are complaints throughout the year, even though we are busy in the summer. And we do get all types of different infractions. We have help from RCMP with larger files. As a general trend, we noted a decrease in public alcohol consumption and disorderly behaviors this year. And people are generally very cooperative. The signage on the beach was changed in September to help clarify the rules of the beach. The current sign that's up is on the right, and it displays the tent size that is now permitted on the beach. We did have a few issues with individuals camping, whether that be in RVs or in tents throughout the summer, some of which required RCMP assistance again. There's been noted issues with difficulty of locating the entrance to Rendell Park since it crosses the boat launch. So I do have a recommendation to make the entrance to Rendell Park more noticeable so that the safety of patrons crossing the boat launch. There were approximately 12 warnings issued for feeding geese, loud music, and alcohol consumption on the beach. There was a few issues with buskers in the plaza that did comply when asked to move along. Barbecue warnings are usually just letting people know where the barbecue zone is, but there is still the ongoing issue of charcoal and briquette use, as it's not well known that it's not permitted. We do struggle with off-leash dogs as well. That is a year-round concern. There's not always a noticeable signs for people nor knowledge. We gave about 80 verbal warnings for off-leash dogs only throughout the summer. And we did have one large file where a dog was that had bitten someone while they were using our beach area. So since there is such a struggle with off-leash dogs, I do have a recommendation to explore again the possibility of an off-leash dog area. There are lots of residents that do look to where they can take the dogs off leash. So in our highway and traffic bylaw, we issued 50 tickets for parking strictly in the boat launch area between May and September. There is a bit of confusion around which is boat launch parking versus like the paid parking area. I think the village has done their best to make it know, like seeing that which areas are which. We do try to help those that struggle. So I don't think there's much more we can do on that. The 15-minute stalls are used very well. There are very few tickets that are written there, but it does happen on those busy weekends. We do struggle with the emergency parking right near the plaza as a drop-off zone. In the photo on the slide, we get multiple vehicles blocking the emergency entrance, which is used quite regularly for RCMP. There is emergency vehicles painted on the road, but it goes unseen very easily. So I've just recommended to add some signage that it's no parking, no unloading, something along those lines. There were 20 letters mailed to vehicle owners for parking vehicles on our streets for an extended time. Our bylaw states 48 hours. And we can be more proactive about this in the summer, and it's more complaint-based in the slower season. The boat launch is again the busiest on the weekends. This year we did see an increase compared to last year, and there was a few weekends where traffic was backed up down Lillooet and around the corner. We had a large file which was to do with a yacht that was launching. We didn't have any knowledge of it beforehand, and it took many hours from start to finish, but they did do it smoothly. Unfortunately, they were issued fines for some parking violations. And in this case, should have advised the village of that they were going to be there and blocking the road for the day. Sorry. So our property maintenance bylaw is focused around the overgrown properties with knotweed, as well as just regular maintenance. Compliance orders have been issued to property owners that have not been cooperative after repeated attempts. I issued 50 tickets under this bylaw due to failing to maintain a property. The only thing I can recommend in this one as well is that we increase seasonal communications about property maintenance and the noxious weeds. A lot of property owners do not reside in Harrison, so they are not on top of keeping their properties maintained. We sent 20 letters to property owners in regards to zoning. This included such infractions as using an RV as a dwelling unit, or having too many vehicles on the property, and even like there was some dumping and storing of materials and a couple unsafe buildings. There were 8 noise complaint letters mailed to property owners, and generally they're just a one-time instance that's resolved with the letter. There were a few that did require RCMP again. 4 tickets were issued under the noise complaint bylaw. I guess it's noted that there is a noise bylaw on the agenda today, and I'm working with the village administration to update the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw for fining. It'll make enforcement for noise much easier. And then we have a few other bylaw infractions, like there was only 1 business license from a business that was operating without a license. There were 4 letters mailed for improperly displaying a sign or no permit for a sign. And there is a constant issue with placement of sandwich board signs, which we do work with the businesses to make sure they're placing them properly. 3 letters were sent in regards to the waste disposal bylaw for improperly disposing of garbage. 1 letter for the sewer backup under the sewer bylaw. 1 letter and ticket sent for removing a tree without a permit, and then 1 for outdoor burning. The large files that we dealt with this year were 430 Esplanade that was demolished. Pine Avenue did take a lot of resources, including RCMP, to bring multiple properties into compliance. And then there were a couple overgrown lots, one on Alder, that did take quite some time to bring it into compliance as well. Then I just have the stats of tickets that were written. I compare them from 2022, 2023, and 2024. We did see an increase in tickets written in 2024 versus 2023, most of them being for highway and traffic throughout the summer. There were 236 tickets written in 2024 versus 140 in 2023, as well as an increase in letters written to property owners of 84 this past year compared to 63 the previous year. Of those tickets, 10 of them, well, I guess, so 15 were disputed and 10 were upheld and paid. They were all sent into a compliance agreement. 4 were canceled and 1 was sent to collections. There are 7 disputed tickets still waiting for adjudication. And in closing, the public's encouraged to report all bylaw infractions through the village office, and we remind that we're always here to help. I mentioned previously that we're working on updates to the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. And then we have implemented a new tracking for complaints for this year with a goal of simplifying our data collection and records management. And we will also be increasing patrols in Spring Park with respect to the new barbecue zone. And we will be continuing to prioritize public education so that everyone can stay safe and comfortably enjoying and visiting Harrison.
Thank you, Bylaw Enforcement Officer. Can I have a motion to receive the report?
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Page 39 is the dogs, well, I suppose you really don't know, Jessica, but I'm asking the question. These dogs are off leash. Are they residents or are they more visitors? Do you have any idea?
They are both.
They're both?
Yes.
Okay. And page 41. What is that one about? Where's page? Oh. On Cedar Avenue sees many abandoned, but no, is this on Cedar west or east of Cedar?
It's on both ends.
Both ends, okay. Thank you. And 42. Now, this has been a problem for many years. Jessica has brought about these large crafts. They come there to either do maintenance work on that esplanade or cleaning their vehicles. Whether the village is notified, I've got no idea, but they should be notified. And 46, 46, where are you? It's to do with the, what is it? 46. Do with the sandwich boards, that area, regarding, now, the sandwich board do have a policy, was relaxed due to COVID, for obvious reasons. And it was originally brought to the council of the day by the business community that they didn't want sandwich boards blocking the, which is now obviously the wider sidewalk. So I see that's still a problem, and there is instances where sandwich boards are blocking the flow of traffic of people walking. So I think that's something that should be brought back to, unless council wants to change the policy is there, that there's no sandwich board should be on village property, which is the sidewalk. They should be on their own property or attached to their property. So I think that's one that should be looked into. And before I finish, your worship, and by the way, Jessica, an excellent report. Thank you very much. Nice to have these reports. Gives us an indication of what's obviously business is going up. The fences are going up, and I would like at some point, your worship, that this be brought to a committee of the whole or a meeting to further discuss the bylaw enforcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pacho. What aspect would come to a separate meeting? The recommendations in the report or something else?
The recommendations, but it's also to do with the financial part of it as well, which I don't want to discuss this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pacho. Further discussion, Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talland. Through you to our bylaws officer, thank you for your comprehensive and excellent report as usual. I just have one comment, and on page 47, large files, I am elated that there was successful remedial action that resulted in the demolition of an abandoned house and hazardous vacant property. I believe bylaws in the village had been working on that one for a good 2 or 3 years. Is that correct? Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Talland.
Thank you, Councillor Pacho. Councillor Schweinpens.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. And thank you, Jessica, for your presentation. Very well presented and organized. I first met Jessica about 6 years ago, and she told me to move my sandwich board. So, but she didn't find me. Thank you. I too had a couple of questions, and maybe we talk about this more in detail at a committee of the whole. I'm not sure. I like the recommendation about the entrance to Rendell Park. Perhaps we need to put that into the design features when we redo the dike at that end. You have a comment here that buskers in the plaza are asked to move along. I'm kind of curious why. We're a village of artists. We celebrate art, we celebrate music. I go to Victoria a lot, and in the summertime, the buskers are part of the culture. It's wonderful. And I'm wondering if council would consider allowing buskers in the summertime. I think it would bring some good fun and good energy to the village.
Enforcement officers are a bylaw that prohibits busking. I'm seeing nods already, and you could probably tell me the number.
We do have a bylaw that prohibits busking at the moment.
So, Mayor Talon, if it's okay with you, perhaps we will table some of these comments for a committee of the whole when we talk about this, but a couple of other comments. It sounds like signage is something that we could improve on as a village. It'd make your job easier if everything's well signed with regards to barbecues and tent sizes and right-of-ways and all that sort of thing on the beach. It might make your job easier. It's my impression from this. Also, under property maintenance bylaw number 1072, your page 43, you've got compliance orders are issued to property owners that aren't cooperative. I'm just wondering, why don't we have a zero tolerance with these people? If they've got knotweed on their property, or if they're not responding within 7 days to an overgrown lot, why don't we hire a contractor and send people the bill? That seems to make sense to me, because neighbors are complaining. We get infestations of pests, including knotweed. I'd like to table that for something that we talk about to the community as a whole as well. I could keep going. There's a couple of other things. And I also wanted to make this point. Our council a few months ago agreed that we're going to have a bear aware or wildlife aware program this spring. Bears are going to be up in a couple of months. And I just want to make sure that we can empower bylaw to help educate and enforce some of our waste disposal bylaws that we have in place. So hopefully we keep that in mind as well. So I trust that we're going to be talking about this report more in a committee of the whole, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebents. I like the report. Thank you, bylaw officer. The information is really informative. Do we need a motion that we will return to committee of the whole, or do we, CAO, what can you advise?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, you could refer this to a future committee of the whole. Absolutely.
I liked your recommendations in there. I thought they were all reasonable, including exploring an off-leash dog park in the village. So I look forward to having those conversations at a future committee of the whole meeting. And I will put a plug in, because I've been to some of these meetings that bylaw only is aware of infractions based on complaints. And I'll emphasize that you said quite softly at the end that we need to know about it if there's a violation or a suspected violation, that let bylaw know. Without a complaint, we wouldn't know about it. Councillor Faccio.
I'll make the motion, Your Worship, that we refer this report to a committee of the whole to discuss it more in depth. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebends. Discussion on the motion. We'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Thank you, bylaw officer.
Pardon me, Your Worship. There's an original motion for receipt that still needs to be voted on.
Oh, of course. Further discussion on the original motion to receive the report. And seeing none, I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you for the reminder. Corporate officer, the next item on our reports from staff, please.
We're moving on to item 12B, report of the Chief Administrative Officer regarding the 2025-2026 strategic plan.
Motion, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio to adopt the strategic plan, seconded by Councillor Schweinbentz. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Next item, corporate officer.
Moving on to item 12C, which is the report of our Director of Operations regarding the Miami River Bridge contract awards.
Please proceed, Director of Operations.
Thank you. At the regular council meeting of January 15th, 2024, council authorized staff to use the remaining funds from the Growing Communities Fund for all necessary repair work on the McCombs Drive bridges. In order to execute the work, the project repairs have been separated into two contracts: utility relocation work and abutment repairs. The village issued a request for proposals on November 4th for temporary bridge utility relocation work in order to complete the first phase of the repairs. By the closing date of November 12th, 4 proposals were received. Staff have awarded the contract to Jake's Construction with their proposed design change of directional drilling the utilities underneath the river instead of having them on the bridge deck. This change will result in cost savings to the village and a permanent solution that will provide separation from the sheet pile abutments. The construction schedule for this work is estimated to take 6 days. The village issued a second RFP on December 6th with a closing date of January 8th for the bridge abutment repairs. 8 proposals were received and evaluation was completed based on financial, corporate, and technical criteria. West Shore Contractors received the highest total score and have been awarded the contract with an estimated construction timeline of 3 weeks. Staff, with the assistance of Red Cedar Environmental, have been working with the Ministry of Water, Land, and Resource Stewardship, along with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, to apply for permitting under emergency measures. The work will commence as soon as the approvals are received. The village has partnered with Stehalis on this project to provide on-site archaeological monitoring. The bridge will likely be closed for periods of time during the project work. The village will post closures and detour information once timelines are confirmed after the permits have been issued. As a quick update, staff have recently received updates that estimate the environmental permitting approvals may be coming towards us early this week. Directional drilling has been requested to start as soon as possible once the approvals are given. The RFP submitted by Jake's Construction for the utility relocation work quotes the project at $147,600. The RFP submitted by West Shore Contractors quotes the bridge abutment repairs at a cost of $468,536. These projects will be funded by the Growing Communities Fund. The recommendation from this report is that the Director of Operations report dated February 3rd, 2025 regarding the Miami River Bridge contract awards be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Schweinbens.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Tallon. Thanks for the report. Through you to Director of Operations, thank you for the report. I think this predates me living here, but my understanding is that we're in this predicament because of some technical issues in repairing the bridge back in 2012. I don't know if there are technical issues or perhaps we didn't have the money to do it properly. I understand that the old wood abutments had to remain in place and therefore it couldn't be done properly. So my question to you is this the permanent fix that we're looking for? Is this something that's going to last more than 13 years and we won't have to do this again?
Director of Operations.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Schweinbens. Yes, that is correct. The proposed work here is to do a permanent solution that will not be a temporary or fix. So it is something we'll be looking at for a permanent and long-term solution.
And thank you, Mayor Tallon, and thank you for the answer. And just as a follow-up, will it be done in a way that won't interfere with the flow of the channel permanently? The fish, wildlife, and organisms of the creek aren't going to be have to lift up a few inches or anything like that. Is it going to be maintain the environmental integrity of the watershed?
Thank you.
Director of Operations, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so we're working with Red Cedar Environmental. They're our consultants on this. They've been working on the approval process with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So they've come up with the work plan and then we'll be presenting it to DFO for the approval, and then they'll be on site doing the monitoring throughout the project.
Further discussion, Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, through you to our Director of Operations. Thank you. And thank you for trying your best to push this forward on an emergency basis. It is a critical bridge. In your report, you mentioned that you've partnered with Stehalis on this project to provide on-site archaeological monitoring. What will that involve? They will be on site during the whole process to, I am assuming it's to see if there is anything of archaeological significance to Stehalis or First Nations. Is that correct? And is that, was that a requirement through environmental, or, I don't know, maybe you can enlighten me a little. Thank you.
Director of Operations, can you clarify?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, through you to Councillor Vidal. Yes, so this would be during ground disturbance work. We've had conversations with Stehalis and their team to provide someone on site for monitoring as any disturbance happens. And this is something that the province has asked us to reach out for, and is something that we'd like to do as partnership with Stehelas.
Thank you. That was very helpful, Mayor Talon.
Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Next item is item 12D, Report of Director of Operations regarding the SCADA system.
Back to you, Director of Operations.
Thank you. At the October 7th, 2024 regular council meeting, staff provided an update to council on recent contract awards. One of these awards included the installation of a SCADA system to MPE Engineering. MPE's proposal included the implementation plan for phase 1 of a SCADA system to fit within the 2024 allocated budget. The proposal also included future needs of the village and what was needed to have a complete system for remote access to utility infrastructure. In the SCADA system request for proposals issued on August 12th, staff requested that proponents provide costs for phase 1, an initial system installation, and an implementation plan for future years. The 2024 budget included an allocation for the first phase of SCADA system to improve efficiency and productivity by allowing remote access and control for staff. Phase 1 installation was recently completed by MPE, and staff have already experienced better control over event and alarm access, along with overall better management of water and sanitary sewer infrastructure. Phase 2 of the SCADA system installation will look to add additional infrastructure sites to the new system with an added server for redundancy. By adding these sites, our operators will have increased control, reliable monitoring, and automation of these critical infrastructure components. Staff are recommending that Council approve Phase 2 prior to the 2025 budget request to reduce costs on the Storm Sewer Master Plan project. To collect the necessary data for the master plan, monitoring is required at different sites around the village. A $22,000 cost savings is possible by reducing the monitoring scope if the SCADA system is installed to perform the monitoring. A budget of $80,000 would be included in the 2025 financial plan with and allocated from water and sewer reserves for the second phase of the SCADA system. The recommendation from this report is that Council authorize staff to work with MPE Engineering to complete the second phase of the SCADA system installation at a cost of up to $80,000.
There's a recommendation here that we, the moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that. I have one question. The savings of $22,000 that's in the report, am I understanding correctly that going ahead with phase 2 would allow essentially an annual savings of $22,000 because you don't have to do the monitoring on site?
Thank you, Mayor Talon. No, this would be a one-time saving. As part of the master plan, they're looking at doing monitoring at our sites. So they'd have a third-party consultant come in to do the monitoring. But if we have this in place through SCADA, then we'd be able to do it ourselves and provide the data to the consultants.
Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Swinbanks.
Oh, sorry, I think this is fantastic. It gets us in with the modern age. Just curious though, one quick question. Is there an annual fee for the software and maintenance of that?
Director of Operations.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, through you, Councillor Swinbanks. There's not an annual fee, but there will be just maintenance fees with the company for assistance with the program. But it's more just on one-off need sort of for the year.
Thank you, Director of Operations. Further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. CEO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Before we move on to the next report, I want to advise Council that Mr. Hodgson will be leaving us for a couple of weeks for the birth of his second child. So on the behalf of the management team, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Council, but on behalf of Council, good luck and congratulations, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Congratulations. And with this system, for all your future children, you can just keep everything monitored right at the hospital as we go. So it's fantastic. Congratulations. Enjoy your time off. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Moving on to item E, which is the report of Community Services Manager regarding an environmental open house.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. In 2024, the village hosted an emergency preparedness open house, health and wellness fair, and community open house. These events allowed several opportunities for community organizations to engage and inform residents. Except for the inclusion of the Miami River Streamkeeper Society and the village's Environmental Advisory Committee at the Health and Wellness Fair, there haven't been opportunities for environmental-based organizations to be highlighted. To build on the success of the open houses held in 2024 and continue to offer opportunities for residents to learn about community initiatives and gain valuable information, staff are recommending an environmental open house be planned for 2025. Potential invitees could include Recycling BC with a pop-up recycling initiative, GFL, Miami River Streamkeeper Society, Invasive Species Council of BC, and BC Conservation Foundation, among others. Staff would like to suggest that this event could be held on or around Earth Day, depending on availability of community partners. Staff are recommending that Council refer this matter to the Environmental Advisory Committee for assistance in planning and organizing the event. So the recommendation is that the planning of an environmental open house be referred to the Environmental Advisory Committee.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Swinebans. Discussion, Councillor Fascio.
Through Your Worship to our Community Services Manager, if I may suggest that included in that open house should be or asked if they would come, the FVRD environmental staff, invasive species control, air quality, and future waste reduction facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, through you to our Community Services Manager. I certainly support the motion, and I believe that Earth Day this year is around April 20th or 22nd. Is that correct?
Community Service Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Vital. Yes, it is Tuesday, April 22nd, which falls right after the Easter long weekend and on a regular council meeting date as of now.
Thank you. Might be tough to fit it in, but we'll do it. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Councillor Jackson.
I would just like to see that Communities in Bloom have a booth at this, because I think that would be very important too. So if you could have that added, it would be really nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. That sounds like a good idea. Hopefully the chair of the Environment Committee, if we move this, will take good notes. Mr. Swinebans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Yeah, great ideas. I think it'll be a great initiative. I believe the Environmental Advisory Committee is meeting in the next couple of weeks, and I'll bring it to them. We will bring it to them. To our list of booths, we should maybe think about inviting the folks from Bear Smart as well. Maybe they'd like to join us. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to refer this to the Environment Committee to get things going? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Corporate Officer, next item, please.
Thank you. I have a report regarding the Age-Friendly Committee. According to its terms of reference, the Age-Friendly Committee can have up to 8 members, and the terms of reference also state that it should have at least 5. Recently, Lise Reimer and Laura Lanfranchi resigned, bringing committee membership down to 5. And so staff are recommending that the village put out a call for interested individuals to apply for the committee. Just as an additional discussion point for this report, last week, after the time for agenda cutoff, the village received a resignation letter from Alan Garneau on the APC. This letter will be included in the next agenda package under correspondence. However, as APC membership is now down to 5, I would like to ask council to consider the following motion so that the callouts can be issued at the same time. So the recommendation would then be that staff be directed to advertise for age-friendly committee and advisory planning commission member applications. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is approved unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Moving on to bylaws, we have a report of planning consultant regarding development approval information bylaw number 1210.
Our planning consultant, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Your Worship. As we're all aware, the Development Approval Information Bylaw is a tool that may be used to help the community understand what, if any, impacts that a development may or may not have in the community. The authority to create this bylaw is found within sections 484 to 487 of the Local Government Act. And just for the council's reference point, this piece of legislation has been in the LGA since 1999. When you're dealing with doing a development approval information, it's a two-pronged approach. The first thing you must do is designate your DAI area in your official community plan, and this has been completed and it's now in section 3.5 of your new official community plan. The second part is the implementation requires the actual DAI bylaw to be created, and this outlines what type of information is required and who may provide the required information. Under Section 484 of the Local Government Act, the village can adopt a DAI bylaw to address any or all of the 6 issues as noted below, and the required reports must be provided by the developer and accepted by the village. Council originally required time to review the bylaw in greater detail, especially as 2 new members were recently elected to council. Part of this review was held on January the 14th, and council reviewed the bylaw during the special meeting. And during this time, council resolved into the committee of the whole, and with the following resolution was passed, that third reading of the DAI bylaw be rescinded, and the discussion ensued on the intent of whether the planner has the flexibility to request reports that they feel are necessary as a part of the application, or whether all terms need to be addressed. And then we had a bit of a discussion as to how we could loosen it all up, came up with some suggestions, and then the next day, after that discussion, it was drawn to my attention by our community services manager that this flexibility is already outlined in sections 3.1 and 3.2 of the current bylaw. And this is outlined on page 84 of your agenda, those 2 sections. So you've got your subject areas, which may mean all or any of the subject area category as outlined in Schedule A may be applicable. The subject matter contain all or any of the requirements listed under each of the subject titles. And staff are of the opinion that this section mitigates concerns raised by council at the January 14th meeting, and therefore we've not made any changes to the bylaw and are recommending that the bylaw be given third reading. With that, Your Worship, the staff recommendation is that the Development Approval Information Bylaw number 1210, 2024 be given third reading.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Pacho, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Swinebenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to Mr. Cossey. I thought it was very well written. What I liked about this is, development has to be a balance. We have to make sure we look after the environment, the needs of the current residents, the character of our village. And I think that this does that. It makes sure that the developers, are held to account with those things. But it also gives some clarity and some assurances to the developers in that we are open for business. And I've heard so many complaints that other municipalities take a year, year and a half for developers to get approvals. I feel like you've got some assurances and some clarity that indicate to developers that we are open for business. come and develop in our community, but make sure it's balanced and done our way. And so I like that and I support this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebands. Further discussion to the motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer, and I'm noting the time is a few minutes shy of 9 o'clock, and I know this agenda item is a large one with many with many features. And I'm wondering if I'm looking for the right words, either defer or table this for a subsequent meeting, a regular council meeting, or some other meeting where we can come at this fresh and deal with it more comprehensively than we may have time tonight. Any suggestions on wording as to what we might do with this item, Councillor Vital?
Yes, I do support your view, Mr. Mayor Talon. Reading through the draft bylaw, I have quite a few questions that I wanted to ask of staff, and rather than taking up considerable time tonight, I'm wondering if that should also be referred to a special meeting to concentrate on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital.
Yes.
Councillor Jackson.
Make a motion to table this to a special meeting, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Facho. Discussion on the motion to table this to a special council meeting in the future. Councillor Schweinmetz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I'm in favor of doing it another time, but would it be appropriate to do it at our next council meeting instead of do we need a special to do this? Or because we are running late, there's a storm tonight, there's icy roads, we got to get out of here, but is it just appropriate for next council meeting?
No.
Councillor Facho.
Yeah, with respect to Councillor Schweinberg, I think this should be a standalone meeting where we can discuss this in detail. There's quite a few areas that some of us have to discuss. I don't think including this again into a council meeting would be the appropriate thing to do. This will be a special meeting. They're always open special meetings.
Yeah, a special meeting will be recorded on Zoom and open to the public. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to either our CEO or a corporate officer, I believe also that this needs to go through a process of public engagement. Is that correct? And that happens after, I believe, second reading? Thank you.
Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Vital. So section 124 sub 3 of the community charter states that a council procedure bylaw cannot be amended or repealed and substituted unless council first gives notice in accordance with section 94 describing the proposed changes. So that's what the notice would look like. Under section 94.2, we have an alternative public notice bylaw. So that would be going out in direct mail on our website and notice boards. So it's not the same as like a public hearing, for example, but there is a public notice period, and that can happen at any time. Some municipalities give first 3 readings to their council procedure bylaws and then issue the notice. My preference would be that the bylaws stay at second reading. Just after third reading, normally there aren't any changes. So there will be a public notice period, but I believe that council has some things to discuss before issuing that public notice so that the notice accurately represents the proposed changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. That's why we have a corporate officer, and that's why it isn't me. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. So look forward to that at a subsequent meeting. Corporate Officer, next item, please.
So the next three items are bylaws that are just on the agenda for adoption, so there are no staff reports associated to them. So I can read the first recommendation there for item 13C. The recommendation is that indemnification amendment bylaw number 1215, 2024 be adopted.
Move, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
Next up is item 13D, and the recommendation is that noise bylaw number 1218, 2025 be adopted.
Is there a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Now we're all quiet on the noise bylaw. Is there any discussion on the noise bylaw motion before us? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Next item, Corporate Officer.
And the last bylaw there, item E, and the recommendation is that littering, dumping, and snow repeal bylaw number 1217, 2025 be adopted.
Your worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. And that takes us to new business. Maybe I'll do this since it's from me. I attended a annual general meeting of the Harrison Festival Society a couple weeks ago, and at the course, I'm a member of that society, and in the course of their AGM, a conversation came up about the Festival Society's relationship and working relationship with the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and it was kind of suggested that more communication or more linkages would be better, and the next thing I knew, I was on the board. So I wanted to make council aware of that, and you can see the recommendation here is that I would just, where I might be able to act as a bit of a liaison, not replacing any of the ongoing administrative and other work, because I don't need to do anyone else's job, but just if there are opportunities to engage council to board and board to council, that I would serve that role.
Move the recommendation, your worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that? Councillor Swinebenz.
Mayor Talon, I'm glad that you're involved. I think the linkages between some of the agencies in our community and council are so important to develop, as in this case, the arts. And I hope that going forward, there'll be very few barriers for them to grow the art scene in our communities. So I'm glad you're part of it.
I'll call the vote. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, and that carries unanimously. I also have another new piece of business. It's regarding a rainbow crosswalk, and I'd like to move that staff be directed to research a suitable location and cost to install a rainbow crosswalk in the village and report back to council at a future meeting on that. Is there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Very much support some recognition of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. My only concern with rainbow crosswalks is that so many other communities are experiencing vandalism of them on a regular basis. So I would like to make a friendly amendment to your motion. And that is to also include and also request staff to look into possibly some other options that may be available, including in addition to the crosswalk. Thank you.
Motion to amend to include other potential opportunities to recognize this, and that's seconded by Councillor Faccio. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, I'll call the vote on the amendment. That carries unanimously. So any discussion on now the amended motion? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Harrison Hot Springs invites and has visitors from around the world of all creeds and colors and persuasions. And the Rainbow Crosswalk is symbolic, I think, of a village and of a community that's inclusive, that's tolerant, and is accepting of everybody. And I'm glad to see that it looks like council will embrace this, and I fully support this.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote on now the amended motion. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Which takes me to my last new business, which is a surplus policy, a disposal of surplus items and equipment policy 111. Apparently, under the policy, under this policy as it's drafted now, the mayor personally conducts a public auction. I'm not sure that's going to give good value for disposing of surplus items. And I'd like a motion that staff be directed to draft changes to policy 111, removing the public auction requirement and incorporating provisions for sealed bidding processes.
Moves, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. I have a seconder. Do I have a third? Do I have a fourth? I'm just sorry. Is there a discussion to the motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that's adopted unanimously. I need a hammer, a gavel to do that. Item D here in new business, Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I have put together a possible, and I hope council's endorsement, resolution to be sent to Lower Mainland Local Government Association for consideration. This came about after a few months ago we received a letter from the CUSP requesting support for this. And at that time, I discussed and brought forward that perhaps this could be done as a resolution to Lower Mainland LGA. So the recommendation is that council endorse the following resolution to be forwarded to the Lower Mainland Local Government Association for consideration. Whereas access to emergency medical services is critical for all British Columbians, and hospital emergency department closures severely disrupt critical health care access, potentially endangering communities and lives by delaying urgent medical treatment. And whereas reliable communication and immediate notification during hospital emergency department closures is essential to ensure the public is informed of alternate healthcare facilities, preventing unnecessary delays. And whereas a reliable and immediate notification system to alert the public to emergency department closures and alternate care locations is not in place, therefore be it resolved that UBCM requests that the provincial government establish a standardized emergency notification system utilizing platforms such as text alerts, mobile alert applications, and local media to inform the public of temporary emergency department closures and directing residents to the nearest available healthcare facilities. Thank you.
Second that, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Faccio. Discussion on this? Councillor Jackson.
A brief comment. My concern is that in a resolution, kind of, we're saying we agree to what's going on. And when they read this, they might think, oh, it's okay, we'll put out notices so we can have all these closing rather than dealing with the big issue. I mean, I will support this, But, you know, just the way that I see it, that this is not going to solve it because it's so big, it's so comprehensive that I don't know how they're ever going to deal with it, but I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Yeah, I agree. That this motion is needed is a little bit disappointing and to begin with. So I agree. There's a fundamental problem. Councillor Vital.
Thank you. Mayor Talon, through you and to Councillor Jackson. I hear what you're saying. The resolution was never meant as a way to solve, as you say, the much bigger problem. But throughout the province, there has been a lack of communication to residents in especially hospitals in the Cariboo, Merritt, Nakusp, where no notification is given that there are emergency room closures. Well, this won't solve the problem. It's alerting the province that communication is key, and it could mean life and death if a patient was to go to an emergency department and it was closed without notification, or to be told where the nearest healthcare facility is. Like I said, could mean the difference between life and death. I hear very much what you're saying. That's a bigger issue than what the intent was of this resolution. Thank you.
Any further discussion on that motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. And I think that takes us to agenda item 15, questions from the public pertaining to agenda items. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. A couple of quick questions, if I don't mind. On the Macomb Drive bridges, how much is it going to cost us for having an archaeological monitor on site during this construction? I presume we're paying for this, or are they paying for it and just asking to come and look? Normally, the developer or the person doing the job has to pay for somebody from the reserve to sit there while the job is ongoing and look for arrowheads or whatever they're looking for. So is this in the budget? And if so, how much is it going to cost?
Director of Operations, am I correct in presuming that the budgeted amounts that were identified in the report include any fees that may be associated with the archaeological monitoring by Stahelis?
Those were the costs identified in the report are just for the contractors that are hired. Archaeological monitoring would be done by the village, and it'd be on an hourly rate for depending on the needs for amount of site disturbance.
Thank you, Director of Operations.
So we might be able to get that answer. The other question related to that is, we now have Seabird Reserve as a major property owner in the village, and they might also want to have a look and see if there's any archaeological stuff going on. So I kind of wonder why we're making it the exclusive of the Chehalis people when there are other native neighbors in the area that might have an archaeological interest. We also had a lot of use of Harrison by Port Douglas over the years. Anyway, on that bridge thing, I didn't quite hear the answer over here. Is the old wooden bridge going to stay in place underneath the bridges, or is that getting removed as part of this project? The pilings and cribbings and all that stuff that's still there in the river channel.
Director of Operations, are you able to summarize the nature of the work briefly this evening?
Yes, thank you. So with the existing wood pilings, currently we're working with consultants and DFO and the province
on the proper measures for that because we're going under emergency measures. So it's in discussion. The intent would be to remove it, but it's all subject to approvals.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's important because that river is the flood channel for overland flows from Agassiz, which we've talked about quite a lot recently. And we're not supposed to constrict that channel in any way. And by leaving those pilings in place, we're reducing the capacity of the Miami River to get overland flows through the village and out to the lake. On the procedural bylaw, I'm delighted that you're going to talk about it some more. And the corporate officer was quite correct in specifying that a public notice has to be posted. What the statute doesn't say is that the public has a right to be heard about that procedural bylaw because it affects the public's right to know what's going on and to participate at council. And yet the legislation itself doesn't impose a requirement that council listen to what the public has to say. And I think that's an oversight on somebody's part because you have to listen to what we say about land use matters, and you should certainly have to listen to what we have to say about our right to address the council. So I'm asking if during your discussion, is it possible to include something in the bylaw that says, or in this process that you're following, that gives the public a chance to talk about the bylaw? I mean, I could have asked to be a delegate about it, but that's limited to 10 minutes, and it's a big bylaw, and I don't think 10 minutes is going to cover it. So I'm making a request that you consider providing during that special meeting an opportunity for public input. And that's just a question. You don't have to answer it tonight. On the development information bylaw, I didn't see the requirement for the 4x8 signs we talked about on each site announcing what's been applied for. And I think that needs to be in there along with a larger radius for notification. And those are my questions, Mr. Mayor. I don't expect an answer. We all want to go home. There's a storm, there's snow, there's ice. So out of deference to that, I'll leave those questions with you and look forward to your answers in due course. Thank you.
I can answer that one right now, Your Worship. On the Development Approval Information Bylaw, it is not a Development Procedures Bylaw. The Development Procedures Bylaw has the signs in them, not the Development Approval Information Bylaw.
Are there any questions from anyone participating remotely tonight?
If anybody on Zoom has a question, please use the raise your hand button.
Hearing no questions from anyone participating remotely, motion to adjourn from Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that is approved, and we're adjourned. Thank you all.